Hello and welcome to our guide for Thok the Bloodthirsty, one of the final bosses in the Siege of Orgrimmar. The fight has two phases that alternate several times. While Phase 2 stays the same throughout the fight, Phase 1 changes each time you enter it. Before we look at any abilities, we have to talk about the structure of the fight. During Phase 1, Thok uses a number of abilities against your raid, and your raid has a means of forcing Thok to leave this phase and enter Phase 2. This is required, as we will see, since Thok deals increasing damage in Phase 1 and will therefore wipe the raid if he does not leave this phase. During Phase 2, Thok does not need to be tanked, and all he does is fixate on a random raid member, moving towards them at increasing speed and killing anyone in front of him. During this phase, your raid will have the opportunity to free one of 3 enemy NPCs, which Thok will then promptly kill, causing him to go back to Phase 1. Each of the 3 NPCs will grant Thok a different set of abilities to use in the subsequent Phase 1. We're going to talk about all the Phase 1 abilities before looking at Phase 2 and then at the general strategy for the fight. There are a few abilities that Thok uses in all Phase 1s, which we'll talk about first. Tail Lash is a tail attack that deals damage in a cone behind Thok and stuns any affected players for 2 seconds. All raid members will have to make sure that they are never behind the boss. Bloodied is a debuff that is automatically applied to any raid member who has less than 50% of their maximum health. The debuff does not do anything, and it disappears as soon as the player is healed above 50% health. This debuff plays an important role in the fight though, because Thok will enter Phase 2 whenever a minimum number of players with the bloody debuff, 5 and 10 man and 15 and 25 man, are within a 10-yard radius. Deafening Screech is a raid-wide damaging attack. Thok uses this increasingly often in each Phase 1, and you can tell how much time is left until the next Deafening Screech by looking at Thok's energy, which serves no other purpose. Deafening Screech also interrupts player spellcasting in addition to the damage it does. Aside from these abilities, in each instance of Phase 1, Thok will use a different frontal cone attack that requires a tank switch as well as one other ability that damages the raid. In the very first Phase 1, before having killed any NPCs, Thok will use Fearsome Roar as his frontal cone attack and Shock Blast to damage the raid. Fearsome Roar deals damage in a cone in front of the boss and causes affected players to receive a stack of a debuff, increasing the amount of damage they take by 25%. Simply perform a tank switch and stay out of the cone. Shock Blast deals nature damage to random raid members. Simply heal through it. When Thok kills Acolyc, one of the NPCs, Fearsome Roar is replaced by Acid Breath and Shock Blast is replaced by Corrosive Blood. Acid Breath deals nature damage in a frontal cone and applies a stacking armor-reducing debuff, and Corrosive Blood is a 30-second nature damage dot. When Thok kills War Master MONTAK, another one of the NPCs, Fearsome Roar is replaced by Scorching Breath and Shock Blast is replaced by Burning Blood. Scorching Breath deals fire damage in a frontal cone and applies a stacking fire damage dot, and Burning Blood deals fire damage to random raid members and leaves fiery void zones at their location. When Thok kills Water Speaker GORAI and the several other NPCs that accompany him, Fearsome Roar is replaced by Freezing Breath and Shock Blast is replaced by Icy Blood. Freezing Breath deals frost damage in a frontal cone and applies a stacking debuff that freezes the target in a block of ice at 5 stacks, causing them to take 5% of their maximum health and damage every 2 seconds. Icy Blood is a 15-second frost damage dot that also traps players in ice at 5 stacks. All of this sounds quite complicated, but it is actually very simple. Every Phase 1 has a straightforward strategy and there are very few differences between the phases. In all cases, the raid should be stacked on one of Thok's sides, while the tanks regularly perform a tank switch. Your healers will have to heal whatever raid damage there is from Thok's ever-changing ability, as well as from Deafening Screech. Healers and casters have to be sure not to be in the process of casting a spell when Deafening Screech is cast. After killing Water Speaker GORAI, Icy Blood will invariably cause some raid members to be trapped in ice tombs, and these will need to be attacked and killed by your raid so that the trapped player is freed. After killing War Master MONTAK, Burning Blood will require your raid members to be loosely spread out at Thok's side so that they can avoid the fiery void zones. This is the only exception to stacking up in Phase 1. Since Deafening Screech is cast more and more often, you should use defensive cooldowns towards the end of each Phase 1. Invariably, due to the increased raid damage, the minimum number of bloodied players will be reached, and since the entire raid is stacked together, Thok will enter Phase 2. When this happens, everyone should immediately move away from him since he will fixate on a random player. Now let's look at Phase 2. Thok's abilities in this phase are a fixate effect that lasts for 10 seconds, after which time he changes target, and a sort of permanent cleave attack that kills anyone who is in front of him. As the phase goes on, his movement speed increases, meaning that eventually running away from him becomes impossible. As soon as Phase 2 starts, an ad called Korkron Jailer enters the fight. This ad doesn't really do anything. He has an enrage effect that increases his damage done for a while, but it's not a big deal. And when he dies, a jail key can be looted from him. Using this key, a player can unlock one of the 3 cages where the NPCs are being held captive. From here, Thok will kill the NPC and Phase 1 will start all over again. You should have a tank pick up the jailer and all your melee DPS should kill it. Your ranged DPS can attack Thok during this time. Players who are fixated on by Thok should run away from him, making sure not to lead him towards the rest of the raid. Ideally, you should set up some raid markers, and you should make sure that Thok is being kited in a predictable manner. The player who is kiting can call out which marker they are going for. In order to gain more DPS on Thok during Phase 2, which is a relatively easy phase, you should extend the phase for as long as possible. Do not open the cage until Thok is almost at the point where he is too fast to be kited, so that your ranged DPS can spend more time attacking him. A good time to open the cage is when Thok's movement speed buff reaches 12 stacks. The only other thing to consider for the fight is the order in which you free the NPCs, which in turn determines the order in which the different Phase 1s will come about. Ultimately, it doesn't really make a difference, but we advise you to leave the Fire phase, which comes after freeing War Master MONTAK, for last, since it is the most difficult, and by leaving it last you will probably kill Thok during it, shortening it considerably. For a more detailed and constantly updated written version of this guide, go to the link in the description. Thank you for watching.